Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whenever you are listening to the pod. Thank you for tuning in. So, let's going to talk about the first round, everything that happens in a crazy jam-packed first round. We had 48 games in the first round, I think Mike Tirico said, which, holy fuck, what, 3 first-round series? That went to 7 games, 3 blown, 3-1 leads, just nonstop chaos. I need a Xanax, something after all that shit that went on. Even as someone who loves the NBA, that was so much NBA for me, and it was starting so late East Coast time sometimes too, starting at like 9:40, 9:47, almost 10 o'clock at night East Coast time for some of these games. So I am glad to say that we don't have to deal with as many games, to say the least, and I'm excited for the second round. So we're going to be talking about everything that went on in the first round and what I think is going to happen in the second round with these teams too. So let's waste no time, jump right into it. First series I want to talk about is Celtics 76ers. Celtics fans definitely down bad right now. Down bad as can be. Even with Tatum coming back, I think the expectation was for a playoff run for the Celtics, even if Tatum wasn't 100%. You played the whole season with Brown as the number one option, pretty much. You played 80% of the season with Brown as the number one option versus the 20% you had Tatum. So I really don't think him being hurt even is any excuse for the Celtics or Celtics fans. When Embiid came back, it was just completely different for this series and swung the tide in a way that I myself, and I don't think a lot of people saw it coming personally. I didn't think the defense was going to be as good as it was for him. The Celtics weren't really able to attack him like they wanted to. And Embiid in these 4 games averaged 28 points, 9 rebounds, had 7 assists a game, and also only had 8 turnovers in those 4 games. And mind you, 6 of those turnovers were in the first 2 games he played when he was coming back. He only had 2 total turnovers in the last 2 games. 1 turnover in game 6 and 1 turnover in game 7. Versus Jaylen Brown, who had 23 assists and 25 turnovers in this series. And that's what's going to kill you when you're a team like the Celtics playing against the Sixers, who love to get out in transition when players like Maxey and Edgecombe and Oubre, and even a player like Quentin Grimes, who loves to get out in transition too. And they were just letting VJ Edgecombe shoot over and over and over and over. And I get the strategy of, we're going to let this guy shoot because the averages say that over time that he's going to miss the 3 more often than not, which is great. But that strategy at the end of the day also boils down to, we want this guy to go 4 for 10 from 3, and we're fine with that. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And what that leads to, you have those 2 games where VJ Edgecombe was, I believe, 5-11 from 3 and 6 of 10 from 3. And it was game 2 and game 7. And you lose both of those games, and that swings the margin. Those are huge, huge points you're giving up to a player who you, for some reason, just are choosing not to defend from the 3-point line and think you're going to somehow make the Sixers play 4-on-5 or something like that. It just doesn't really make sense. And Vucevic was also just unplayable in this series, and that was, when the trade happened, I understand it was for salary too. That's why they had to get rid of Simons, blah, 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 the whole point of all the trades they made with Holiday and Porzingis in the first place was so they could get out of the tax. But still, I, in my head, thought that Vooch would be able to get the Celtics something. He was damn near unplayable in this series. Oh, my God. Especially even when Drummond would come in. Drummond was just bullying him. Maxey was having his way with whoever was guarding him all series. I don't know why Mazzulla didn't give Walsh some time on Maxey, or even give Walsh just more burn in general and let him get a rhythm, because he's been so good for the Celtics all year as an energy guy and in those defensive situations for the Celtics. So I can't say they need to make a coaching change. That is definitely not what needs to happen. So anyone saying that is definitely a part of like the knee-jerk reaction camp, I would say, if that makes sense. You don't get rid of Joe Mazzulla. You don't. Think about like Eric Spoelstra in Miami and all the ups and downs he's been through. I don't think Miami would trade Eric Spoelstra for being a part of the coaching carousel just because Eric Spoelstra hasn't won them a finals since LeBron James. Yeah, I mean, I think with coaches like this, you stay with them and you ride it out and kind of trust the ebbs and flows of someone coaching a team like this, where yes, they were ready to roll. They were the second seed in the Eastern Conference, but also this was a team who had just traded away Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and had their superstar coming back from a catastrophic injury. And I don't think anybody, even the biggest Celtics fans, sure, they said they were going to win. I don't think anybody even had like the expectations that were set for the Celtics before the playoffs. No one had that vision before the season. No one would have been saying like, oh no, this team is a contender. Just like I was saying, I thought they were a contender ready to roll, but fell flat on my face with that one. And Maxey, Edgecombe, Oubre, everybody on Philly giving props. They just gave Boston belt to ass for that entire series. So Moving on to the Pistons and the Magic series. Magic blow a 3-1 lead in this one, and Cade was the leading scorer in 5 out of 7 games, and right now is the total point scorer leader for the playoffs. Averaged 32, 6 rebounds, 7 assists in that series. But what stood out when I was looking at the playoff series stats for Cade was, again, the turnovers in the same way for Jaylen Brown. Cade had 50 assists in this series, but had also 41 turnovers. Um, and ideally, not what you want, obviously, from your lead guard and someone who is, I don't want to say heliocentric, that's not the right word, but you are just so dependent on his offense. If you're the Pistons, you need him so bad to be a high assist, low turnover guy, especially in the playoffs. And Duren has just not showed up all series. And I can't say, like, are you really going to say the Magic have an elite center rotation? I understand they have size on their front end, and yes, they're a great defensive team, but 10-9 for the series from a player who was getting like all second NBA team honors, all third NBA honor team votes is what we're talking about this season. So just Duren, he needs to step up too as well. And you look at the leading scorers for Detroit. I honestly, again, I'm like, I don't want to say shocked they got out of this series, but not to make an excuse, but point being, if Franz Wagner doesn't get hurt, this series is completely different. Dude was averaging almost 3 steals a game in the 4 games he played in like 22, 5, and 6. So losing that player who's playing like that and gelling perfectly, that is also what helped Detroit come back in this series. So props to Cade. Don't get me wrong. Cade was backpacking the Pistons and putting them on his back regardless. But the lack of scoring, again, from Detroit is just rearing its ugly head. And you look at the leading scorers in points per game for this series. It was Cade at 32, Tobias at 21, Duren at 10, Duncan at 10, and Ausar at 8. That is not going to cut it. And then I think it was Dennis Jenkins at 6.7 for the series or something like that. And that is your 6th or 7th leading scorer in the playoffs. No way. I don't care how good your defense is. This isn't 2003. This is in 1964. You're not going to win with that stuff. And same thing, that even reared its head with the Magic. Without them having Franz, they kind of reverted to what the Pistons had to play, like that same style. And that's why these last 4 games, or 3 games, excuse me, while Franz was out, these last 3 games, it felt like a rock fight. And you look at the Magic leading scorers in point per game this series, it's the same type of story. Paulo, 26 a game. Bane, 18 a game. Suggs, 11. Carter, 11 a game. And Anthony Black, 8 a game. So it's the same type of thing where it just became a rock fight. And I can't say, yes, the Pistons won this series, but is it like a true victory for the Pistons where they feel great? I don't know. And especially if you're the Magic, they have to feel even worse. They were all talking shit, all riding high. I think someone said Desmond Bane was talking shit to Duncan Robinson after he like made a bad inbound pass or something too. So if you're the Magic, you have just fallen flat on your face time and time and time and time again now, with also one of the highest payrolls in the league, which is kind of crazy to say, the Orlando Magic, with all the early exits they've had. So moving on to the Hawks and Knicks, it's insane at one point that this series was 2-1 Atlanta. It really is. Like, I was about to make a video talking about, like, what the fuck is Mike Brown doing? What is Mike Brown doing sitting Jalen Brunson in the last minute? And now here we are, and the Knicks are the odds-on betting favorite in the East right now to go to the finals. And it's just crazy how quick things can change. And I guess even looking at those games too, in the moment, you just react to the game. It's a win for Atlanta. You know what I mean? But again, you go back and look. Atlanta won both of those games when to put them up 2-1. They won both of those games by 1 point each, by 1 singular point. So, I mean, really, when New York went to watch film, New York went to look at the box score after, they probably felt pretty damn good. And you can tell that by the fact the Knicks won the next 3 games by 16 points, 29 points, and then obviously the crazy game where they were up like, 72-21 at some point. They won that game by 51. And Cat in this series, you want to talk about stepping up, dude. I knew he was doing good in the series, but I didn't realize he was doing this good. This is like Willis Reed type shit numbers in the playoffs. Bro averaged 19 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and had 1.7 steals and 1.7 blocks per game in this series. Like, bro, if you're going to give me that in your Cat, we're going to the finals and we're competing to the finals if we're New York, and we're confident that we can make that run to the finals too. You know what I mean? So, just the Knicks defense was smothering Atlanta all series, just smothering them. OG was huge in this series too. OG averaged 21 and 8 in this series, which if you're a wing and you're going to give me that, again, if Brunson is going to have that type of help in the Eastern Conference, he's going to have Cat playing like that and OG like that. Everybody else on the bench just needs to fall into their spot, and Mikal Bridges just needs to find a role where he can fit in there and be this like sixth, seventh man for them, where he can kind of just play a Swiss Army knife role, which almost gives the Knicks more versatility, to tell you the truth, not having to play Bridges so many minutes. So McCollum wasn't really shut down per se, but he started off so hot, and then he only averaged 19 points per game for the series. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, great story for the season, but he got shut down in this series hardcore. He averaged 13 points per game, shot 38% from the field, and had 16 assists and 17 turnovers. So I think next playoffs, there'll be improvements for him, and obviously the Hawks are going to be able to make moves going into the offseason, but we saw the best version of the Hawks in those first 3 games, those whatever you want to call it. And after that, the Knicks really showed that they are a powerhouse in the East, and they kind of are really clicking. And maybe Mike Brown is the coach that helps put them over the top. So moving on to the Cavaliers and the Raptors. The Cavs almost blew this one. It was close, especially in Game 6. There was a point there before Scotty Barnes got hurt. The way that Scotty Barnes was locking up and playing defense was affecting the Cavs in a way almost like in like Wembanyama on the Spurs, the way that he affects offenses, excuse me. And I know they won by whatever in Game 7, ended up being like a 20-point blowout. But as someone who really thought the Cavaliers were contenders, really was high on the Cavs for this run, I am worrying a little bit about how it's gelling. I'm worrying if it's going to become a game of your turn, my turn with Harden and Mitchell, and not due to the way they want to play, but just because everybody else on the team isn't really giving them enough consistent scoring. Mobley, yes, but Mobley's going to get his 18 and 8, and he's going to get these random 20-point games. He's not going to give you a 30, 40, whatever heat check game. They need these bench guys to give them like that 23-point game Max Strus had, and that's what they didn't have consistently in this series. Even with Ingram out and with Quickly out for Toronto, they still were able to push this series to 7 against a much more talented and deeper Cavs team. And Scotty Barnes, I want to talk about. What a performance in this series for Scotty Barnes. Led the first round in total assists, and he averaged 24, 6, and 8 assists per game. Had 60 assists and only 24 turnovers in this series with 1.1 steals and 1.7 blocks per game. So kind of the Scotty Barnes coming out party, and I don't want to say if Toronto gets him help because he has good players around him, but if Toronto gets someone in there who's an elite player next to Scotty Barnes, like either – I won't say a 1A because I don't think Scotty is a full 1. Scotty needs to be a B just because he's not that scorer. But to get a number 1 in there, like as a scorer who can play next to Scotty, I think the sky's the limit for Toronto in the East with the way he played in this series. And I'll be doing a video about his defense in this series at some point and talking about that. But more so after watching the Cavs. Oh, my God, I almost pulled my headphones out. More so watching the Cavs in that series. In every game, I was just worried. I did not feel confident in the Cavs at all. Every time they'd hit a random 3 or Harden would get fouled or Mitchell would hit a step back 3 or get one of those like cuff layups he does. But other than that, really wasn't any confidence in like the Cavaliers as a team and how they were gelling versus what I saw in the regular season. It hasn't really translated to the playoffs so far, especially in that first round series. So, oh God, papers flying around. There we go. Spurs, Blazers, and Thunder, Sun. I ain't talking about those. If you want me to talk about a 5-game series, that was basically a gentleman's sweep. You got the wrong podcast. So we're moving on from that. And I guess the only thing I would talk about that is the Shea whatever free throw talk and the Thunder free throw talk. I like to joke. Oh, almost knocked the mic over. I like to joke about it, whatever, myself, all that. But sure, Shea is leading the playoffs right now in free throw attempts per game, like 12.2. But the Thunder are 9th in free throw attempts as a team. So to say it's like a whole team thing, I don't know. You can say Shea has the ability to draw fouls, whatever. But at the end of the day, I know that I like to joke around about it and all, but like, it's not like the dude is averaging 16 free throws a game or something. I mean, he still shoots 50% from the field, and on jumpers shoots a ridiculous percentage. Same thing from threes, crazy assist to turnover ratio. So I'm not here to hate on the Thunder in that manner, especially in the first round. We're not going to sit here and pretend like the Suns were built to beat the defending NBA champions and the 1 seed in the West who had like the number 1 offensive rating and like the number 6 defensive rating or whatever. So same thing with Spurs, Blazers. There's no need to talk about it. The Spurs, it would have been a choke. They would have been a choke job if they lost to the Blazers in the first round, and they took care of business in 5. So moving on to the Nuggets and Wolves, something I was insanely wrong about was the Nuggets being a contender in the Western Conference. My God, even with the injuries, I thought they could get past Timberwolves in the first round, and the Wolves fucking put belt ass, especially McDaniels. McDaniels was crazy in this series. He averaged 18, 7, and had 3 assists a game, which the playmaking was what you really want to see from McDaniels. He's going to have the turnovers here and there. That's fine. We expect that. But to be able to give you 3 assists a game on top of what he gave you as a scoring slashing wing who can rebound, and the defense he was playing on Murray. My God, Jamal Murray shot 36% in this series, which was 12% lower than his season average. And Denver was held to under 100 points in 3 of the 4 last games in this series. And this was the number 1 offense in the NBA all year. They averaged like 121 points per game. And Denver was able to, Minnesota was able to hold Denver under 100 in 3 of the last 4 games in this series. So just straight up lockdown defense, and Gobert with great playmaking in this series too. 8 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists a game from Gobert. Like, fuck yeah, dude. You'll take that if you're Minnesota all day. And gave you 1.3 steals a game and 1.2 blocks a game. So the defense obviously was there eye test wise, but even to just see those numbers too and see the impact he's having on the court like that, he's almost being like a 7-foot like Draymond Green type role right now, especially some of the passes he was making. He had some nice passes in this series. And the Wolves scoring was just so balanced too. Like once Ant and Dante went down, what it averaged out for them was Ayo averaged 22, Randall averaged 19, Jaden averaged 18, Nas had 10 a game, Shannon Jr. had 14 a game, and then Bones had 7 a game in 14 minutes. So, and Conley was playing big minutes for them too. He was just doing like old man YMCA shit. He was just dribbling with his left hand, going around down the baseline and just making like these little wraparound passes or making like little bounce passes down to the paint. So that was cool to watch too. And just like shout out to the Timberwolves for winning the series with no Ant, with no Dante, and like just mentally, dude, to stay locked in after what you said. If you're Jaden McDaniels and then you see Ant go down, you see Dante go down with these injuries, and it doesn't affect you. You just stay locked in and still come back and win this series against the Nuggets. And so just big performance from everybody on Minnesota. And they've kind of owned Denver, to tell you the truth at this point. What do they have? 2-3 series wins against them? So huge win for Minnesota, excuse me. And the Wolves, just the way they were able to shut down Jokic too. Same thing. Jokic, his season average was 56% from the field, and he shot 44% in this series. And this was also a reflection too of like, I think how I overestimated how the Nuggets were built as well in terms of their depth. Spencer Jones played the fifth most minutes in this series for Denver, which is just great story. Spencer Jones, great G League to NBA player, all that, but you cannot have him playing the 5th most minutes in a playoff series against your rival, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who you need to beat. And again, just in this situation, what are you doing? If you're Jokic with the way you're acting as well in some of these games, like you have to be locked in and you kind of have to be the model of composure for your team. You can't be getting into these like little arguments and scuffles with other players on the team. You know what I mean? Especially at the end of a game, dude. What are you doing? So, moving on. We don't have to talk about the drama and that. Moving on. Good win for Minnesota. Everything. Congratulations to them. Moving on to Lakers Rockets. KD situation is weird as hell. I'm sure he's actually hurt. I don't know to what extent. I don't want to like speculate about someone's injuries, but that's just weird. And it's also goes hand in hand with the fact that Ime just signed a contract extension too, which kind of makes me weary too, because I don't think they would just cut all that money on the coach. That would kind of be a weird loss to take on that huge salary they have. So I'm kind of interested to see after this loss to the Lakers what happens with Kevin Durant and the Rockets in terms of this offseason. And just you saw how dependent they are on his offense. Even if Fred VanVleet was there, I think this would have been a similar situation. You just saw how dependent they were on his offense. The Rockets points per game this series was 98.7 points per game, which was the second lowest to the Magic, who the Magic and Pistons were in a goddamn rock fight. And LeBron in this series, 23, 7, and 8, 1.3 steals a game, and 50 assists and only 26 turnovers at like 41 years old. Just ridiculous, as always. And then the Lakers scoring after LeBron was so balanced. 15 points a game, 14 points a game, 12 points a game, and 11 points a game. And that's not including Reeves because obviously he only played like 2.5 games. And what really killed Houston was Jabari Smith Jr. and Reed Shepherd just not able to get going really at any point. They had these moments where they had like kind of heat check moments where they were able to get going for a couple shots, a couple plays. But at no point throughout the series were they actually able to give Houston consistent offense they needed. Jabari Smith shot 38% from the field for the series, and Reed Shepard was 30% from the field and 29% from three this series. And they were just relying on Amen so much to create everything, and he's just not ready for that. He only took 8 3-pointers the entire series, first of all, so he's not ready to be that scorer that they need him to be, especially in today's NBA, unless he's going to be like a 6'7" version of Giannis. And he played 44 minutes per game this series and still shot 46% from the field. That's great, but just how much they were relying on him was almost ridiculous to see, like how the lack of game plan that Ime had going into this when he knows how his players play. And Sengun, same type of thing. Sengun was 1 of 8 from 3 this series. And if you don't have these players who are going to complement Amen and Sengun to stretch the floor, or if they're not able to stretch the floor for you themselves, then you're kind of in a tough situation offensively right now. You don't really have, you kind of got to figure it out if you're E-Man at that point. And also the front office is what I'm talking about, the offseason. I think there's going to be some moves to be made for the Rockets for sure. And even Jabari Smith, 19 for 51 from 3 in this series. And at no point as well did Ime trust anyone off of his bench to get it going for them and try to give them a spark or give them anything. The minutes played for his top 6 was insane. Whereas like the Lakers were almost playing like a college team in March Madness who are like 10 deep and just throwing people out there. Like, all right, Jackson Hayes, give me 15 minutes. Jake LaRavia, give me 12 minutes. Bronny, give me 5 minutes. And Ime, on the other hand, is terrified to play his bench and anybody. He barely wanted to play Reed Shepard in like game 2 or game 3. So that's enough for talking about all the first round series and everything. Put a bow on that. What I wanted to talk about lastly was my predictions for the second round. What I think's going to happen. So first off, Thunder Lakers. I got the Thunder in 5. That's plain and simple. The Lakers played their ass off in this series. I don't know how much more LeBron has. He's going to have a crazy Bron game where he has like 37 and 7 and jumps to like the top of OKC's building and yams it between his legs and does a windmill. But they do not have enough to compete against the Thunder. Unless there's going to be some like catastrophic set of injuries to the Thunder, I don't see anywhere else where they beat them or really make this a series. So that's Thunder in 5. Thunder moving on to the next round. Spurs and Wolves, I have the Timberwolves in 7. And why I'm going to say this is because we saw what the Timberwolves defense was able to do against Jokic and Murray. I understand top to bottom, you'd say right now the Spurs are deeper than the Nuggets, and they have Wembanyama, who Wembanyama at his peak on defense is ridiculous. But I think the factor that's going to matter for that is Rudy Gobert will be able to defend Wembanyama on the perimeter and in the paint. I think he'll be able to defend Wembanyama, especially considering how long they've trained together, how long they've known each other. There's clips of Gobert and Wembanyama going back to training when Wembanyama was like 13 years old, super young. And you know how France is with like their sports institutions and all that, how their superstars are involved with everything. And obviously them playing on the international team too. To say that Gobert knows almost all of Wemby's moves, I think would be an understatement. And I think he can honestly give Wemby hell. And if he can give Wemby hell, the way the Spurs are going to have to play is going to be Ken De'Aaron Fox lead the Spurs to the Western Conference Finals if Wemby's going to be strapped up by Gobert. And the next domino after that for me is we just saw Jaden McDaniels lock up Jamal Murray. You're telling me Jaden McDaniels can't lock up De'Aaron Fox and a rookie Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle? Give Jaden McDaniels that assignment. He's going to take it and he's going to lock them up. And I think they're going to give the Spurs hell, especially in terms of a team that has playoff experience. Go on down the line for the Spurs versus the Timberwolves right now in terms of playoff experience, especially these players for the Timberwolves who are getting burned, like Terrence Shannon Jr., who now have the confidence going into this series to give you an entirely different wrinkle as a team. And I think they can get Wembanyama, I don't want to say involved in the action enough. That's not the right word because that doesn't really affect him, but more so like get him involved in so many plays that it is actually tiring him down. How much Randall, how much Nas, how much Gobert, how much McDaniels, how much even Ayo are attacking him at the rim. And if they can get Ant to come back too, that's where this gets really interesting for Minnesota. If they even just steal a game or even if it's just 2-1 when Ant comes back, I don't think Ant is worried. I don't think they're worried. If at that point you have Ant back and you just need to win one game, that's when all the pressure is on the Spurs. There is no pressure on the Timberwolves right now to win this series. The Timberwolves, everything for them is house money at this point. They're a 6 seed, have 2 of their best players hurt, and just got out of the first round with a huge upset. And anything they do from this point on, again, is house money. Whereas the Spurs, I don't think they're rattled, but I think it real quick, especially with the way the Timberwolves talk and the way Timberwolves like to run their mouth, specifically Jaden McDaniels in a good way. I think they could rattle the Spurs, especially a young, inexperienced team. And even De'Aaron Fox, someone who's a veteran, sure, but what are his key playoff moments? The first round series against the Warriors, I believe they won, and they lost in the semis to whoever it was. But so again, my prediction, I am going with the Timberwolves in 7 for this series against the Spurs. And then Pistons versus Cavs. I got the Cavs in 6, and I don't think this is going to be a dogfight series like how it was with the Magic and the Pistons, especially with how that series got mucked up with Franz Wagner being out and how that completely changed the Magic. I think the Cavs are a team who they just played the Raptors too, who are kind of a similar defensive team to the Pistons where they hound you and they have Scotty Barnes, who kind of is like a Sore Thompson light on defense, but better on offense right now, obviously. And so I think they've kind of already faced that version and are ready to face the Pistons right now, too. And we just saw how hard it was for the Pistons to get out of that series without Cade and Tobias backpacking so much. Like 60%, 55% of their offense in that series was just Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris. And we're just talking about scoring, not talking about rebounding, assists, everything else that they're contributing as well. And the Cavs just have so much more right now. And I don't think that Raptors series is really necessarily a reflection of how they're going to play against the Pistons. I think how they're going to play against the Pistons, they're going to be a lot more comfortable against a Pistons team who doesn't have anything close even really. Understand the Raptors don't have Cade Cunningham, but we're talking about from the number 2 options down, the way the Pistons offense was run is kind of archaic compared to even how Darko Rakovic runs the Raptors offense. And I think that is what is going to be the deciding factor in this series. So I have Cavs in 6, and I think the Pistons can extend it to 7 too. They could win the series, sure, but I just don't have confidence in this current version of the Pistons, especially with what Jalen Duren has given them on the offensive end in terms of scoring. Has he been an okay rebounder? Sure, he's been okay. Has he been an okay defender? Sure, he's had a couple of okay plays. But you're not going to be a $200 million player for me, a $150 million player for me if you're going to average 10 points and 9 rebounds a game in the playoffs. Namin Keita can give me that. DeAndre Ayton can give me that on a minimum contract. That's not what we're going to pay you, $200 million. So if you're Jalen Duren, you got to step up for the Pistons and be that second option, and even just a third option at this point, bro, for the Pistons who can kind of step up and help them out during this playoff run so they don't get eliminated in the second round early. Even I think it could be quick too, where it becomes a 5-game series real quick, just with even how much Cade has had to exert himself in that first round series, in a 7-game series, being the total leading scorer for his team in 5 out of 7 games. So moving on to the Knicks and 76ers. I know the Knicks are on a roll. They boat raced Atlanta at the end there, but the way the Sixers are playing right now, if I was a Philly fan, I'd be confident as hell we can get to the Eastern Conference Finals as long as Embiid is healthy. As long as Embiid is healthy, I have New York winning this in 7, but I think Philly makes it hell for New York. I really do. I think Maxey can make it hell for Brunson for 7 games. I think Embiid can make it hard on Cat for 7 games. And I think Paul George and Oubre can give you enough on the wing against the Knicks wings that they can make this a really tough series against the Knicks. And as long as Embiid's healthy, I think they push it to 7. And again, I have New York winning, but as long as Embiid is in this series and playing like he was playing, locked in like how he was against Boston, this version of Philadelphia, I don't want to say scary. That would be kind of a bit of an over-exaggeration and overreaction, but in the Eastern Conference right now, there's no reason you can't see them in the Eastern Conference Finals with a shot to play in the finals. I'm not going to say win it, but with a shot to play in the finals. And the only factor for me, again, if Embiid is not himself, if Embiid is 80% Embiid, if he's not 100%, if any version of him is not 100% for this series against New York, then I'm going with New York in 5. I think they boat race them. If Philly has to play 5-6 dudes without Embiid in the game and has to play Adam Bona and Drummond big minutes and not just these like spot minutes, then that's where I get worried if I am a Philadelphia fan. So again, just that series for me really comes down to health, which is a terrible, like shitty way to analyze a series, but that is just unfortunately the way it goes with Joel Embiid. And that's not a knock on him. That's more so just a testament to his impact. If he's not on the floor and he's not out there, Philadelphia is just a completely different team. And we saw that come to fruition exactly in the Philadelphia and Boston series. So that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. You can follow me on all platforms if you already don't. At From the Bench Basketball on Instagram, at From the Bench Basketball on TikTok. The YouTube is at From the Bench Basketball 36. Any other socials, I'll be dropping those soon. So again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. Give me a follow, give me a like, whatever it is. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you have any topics you want me to talk about on the next pod or even on an Instagram post, a video, shoot me a message, a DM, anything, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for listening.